Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Progressively looking more like a director. Sorry, go on.
So it's fine. So welcome to episode 5, Unlocking Epic Game Characters. So we're looking at character creators today, which is a very kind of like interesting and niche subject because not every game has a character creator, but I think there are some really amazing ones. And like this isn't like a list of like, oh, these are the best character creators that have ever been. This is just some that like kind of interest us and we'd like to talk about. So you can go first, Shayev.
Okay, I'm gonna start with City of Heroes,
Mm.
and you know, City of Heroes. I think for its time, it was a really good game. I think probably the game for anyone. Like, I imagine a lot of anyone who's listening to this, they might not have heard of City of Heroes. So, City of Heroes was like what DC Universe. Well, is it called DC Universe, right? There's a superhero version like now. Yeah, I think it's DC Universe Online.
Mm.
So City of Heroes is what that was maybe like 20 year. Oh man, I feel old. 20 years ago. Uh, no. Okay, wait. Oh damn, 14 years ago. Okay, 14 years ago. Oh, such a long time. We're old. Whatever. But basically, first I just want to talk about the game briefly because the game, it had such an impact on me and my friends at the time. Like, we would literally go to like the one internet cafe that luckily somehow opened up at the exact right time that we were teenagers, and basically Sea of Heroes was like one of like three or four games that we were really into. um and I still to this day think that it's better than a lot of other like MMOs that are currently out there.
Mm.
Um, I know that Final Fantasy 14 is really popular now after, they had a bunch of issues and they fixed them all, and that's cool. So yeah, FF14, I think that, the kind of community that Sea of Heroes built was so passion. I feel like a broken record because every week we talk about passion, passion, passion. But again, like, look, you cannot tell me they're not passionate because the game literally servers all closed and then the community came together and like relaunched a bunch of servers so you can still play it like today. um and when it was live as well, like you had all of these like, Halloween event, Christmas event, like, and some people like who play it now, they basically like, oh, it's not the same because you don't have the events. And initially I was a bit like, I'm still getting the same feeling because it's still cool. Like, to me, if you go back and you play it and all the zones are there and everything like that, it still has a bit of that feeling to me. So I don't know if you need the events, but I understand how, like, if it's not a live game, it makes it feel a little bit dead. But anyway, that's more like backstory about the game.
Mm.
Um and the character creation. So the character creation were, and that actually, I think if you go on City of Heroes Reddit now, like you'll find like a lot of people literally making like so many different like characters from that same character creation. Um, and at the time, I think I was probably 15 or 16 or something like that, and I didn't really think anything of the character creation. Like, if I'm being totally honest with you, so like it's you can kind of ask that question of like, why are you interested in talking about it now? And there's actually a story related to when I was that age of like 15. um and I remember thinking, wow, like I really know nothing about the character creation at all. So basically, I made this character and it was like this rudimentary, like literally like a 13-year-old boy has made this character. My character's like fire and ice, and like, there's flames on his leg and like ice cubes and whatever, right? And there was this one guy, I think his name was Kenny. I'm pretty sure his name was Kenny. He was such a nice dude. Like, he would literally like be in that game cafe, right? And just like, play games and stuff. And then like he would entertain us. Like, we'd ask stupid questions and like he'd be like, did you know? Ryu and Ken like made the Shoryuken together, and like that's why it has both of their names in it. And we'd be like, oh wow, like how, it's just like he'd be telling us all this like video game lore, and we just listen to him like, whoa, like this guy knows so much. And and then like I remember few times I think he was sitting next to one of my friends. He was sitting next to one of my friends, and one of my friends was making a new character,
Mm.
and he was like, "Do you want me to design it for you?" And he made it look like straight out of a comic book, like literally, like all of our characters looked like it was on the back of a flipping notepad or something, like that you drew. Not even in like high school, like in lower school or something. And he literally made it look with the exact same character creator, like it jumped straight out of a like comic book. And a few of us saw like, so like one of my mates would get it done, and we'd look at his character and be like, whoa, like that looks so sick, like because it really like takes you into the game like another step, because you feel like,
Mm.
whoa, like I can't let him die, look at like he's got to do the thing now, like you can't be dressed like that and then die, like you know and and then literally I remember every day someone different would ask him like, oh, can you like make my character please? And like he'd be like, yeah, all right, yeah. And like it was so nice of him, because look, he was like a fully grown adult, yeah, and he would just literally like spend like half an hour, and like it was nice of him as well, because like he'd do it kind of quick, and like back then it was like £2-3 an hour, and we're like scrounging for like money in the couch and stuff like that, so he would just be there like clicking and like making it, so it's like, and I remember it was that exact moment where I was like, this character creation is like beyond something else, because even now when you go on like DC Universe Online, and I'm sure maybe it's just because I'm not that good at it or something like that, like for the tools you had and what you could make with it. Like, because if you think about it, right, like any character creation right now is like, they can put quality of life improvements on it. They can modernize it. They can do all of those things, right? But if you go back to City of Heroes and then you try and make a character creation like right now, the fact that it can still borderline hold up and in some cases surpass some of the character creations that are out now, it just goes to show like um you know how advanced it was for its time. And in fact,
Mm.
if you go onto one of the fan made servers now, and anytime you stand in a crowd of however many people that are there, like like some of them you can tell, yeah, you're definitely like a 12-year-old boy, and you just like press random a bunch of times. But actually even the randomizer is pretty good. um like, but there's some characters that literally look so good. And another thing as well, like, so you'll have these people in the world. So there's one character called Miss Liberty, and you have to basically go to Miss Liberty to level up.
Yeah.
And you can tell they use their own character model and their own like character creation to make these models. And like the fact that they look so good, like like it just, the immersion, like it helps all of that stuff. um so yeah, it was just such a good character creator. And they had all these sets, like they had like a demon set, and everything would like match, like you'd have the wings, and you'd have like, they had a full sets for everything. And what's really cool now, actually, like if you go into one of the fan made servers, they added all of the premium outfits. So like if you like things that I couldn't afford back in the day, I can go back to, and I could be like, oh yeah, like I can use that. Then they have City of Villains as well. So they got City of like that whole like style of like outfit creation. So it's just so good. And I think especially with a game like that, it really helps the immersion. Like, I don't think it was because we were teenagers. I think it was because we were so immersed. Like we'd be talking like our characters on the thing, and like all that kind of stuff. And I find it so hard to find maybe it is a teenage thing, I don't know, like, a game where I'm like, I want to talk like the character I am and that kind of stuff. But yeah, he made my character look Legacy of Kane. It's like a PS1 game or something like that.
I haven't played it.
But it's basically it's got like this face mask like type of deal, and like the hair was sort of like that with like a face mask, and like you know, he just made it look so cool. And yeah, honestly, bless that guy. I hope wherever he is doing well.
Mm.
Because it's just like it just made me realize, like, yeah, like there's a lot of fun you can have. And in fact, like if I go, I need to reinstall it because my computer crashed.
Oh
But when I
no.
reinstall it, yeah, long story, but luckily it didn't. It works now. Hence the video call. But like when I reinstall it, because again, the community made a Mac version for it to work,
Yeah.
and so it's like, you know, who does that? Like that's so cool. Um, so like when I finally reinstall it and stuff, I can guarantee you I'll spend an ungodly amount of time just making the character, like just designing them, and like, that's another thing as well. People used to do this thing. You can make a you can make a whole backstory for the character. I think in some of the games I'm sure they still let you do it. But I
Mm.
remember in Sea of Heroes, it was always like this long, like, it felt like reading like a web comic. Like you'd be like, oh, this guy looks good, and I've like played with him for like 2 3 hours, and then you like read his lore, and his lore was like radioactive waste and like da 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 da, and then like you talk to him, and he's like, yes, my parents fell in a vat of radioactive rats, and now I am Rat Man. And it's like, it's just, it was just so cool. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. um did you have anything to ask about that or anything like that? I don't know.
Um, like
But that's
having
that's my first one anyway.
yeah, having played the one on the computer and played the one that was reinstated by the community, other than the access to different content because now it's all part of the newer version,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how is there are there any other differences to the character creator?
No, I think they basically resurrected it in its final form. Like whatever quality of life improvements they made up to that point, I think they just did that. I don't think they added too much modifications.
Mm.
Um, I think they didn't want to mess around with it too much. I honestly, I might, maybe I haven't been on it enough, and I haven't been on that Reddit too much, so I couldn't give you like a definitive answer. But
Yeah.
from what I can recall, it felt like it was probably just the last iteration of the official version. I'm sure if you dig deep enough, you might be able to find a mod of some kind. Um, but I wouldn't tarnish it like that. I would want the original character creator. I would want that.
Fair enough. I must admit, I don't really remember a lot about playing it before because I've still got like the box set because I got one of the special
Really.
editions. Yeah, it's in the cupboard with all the other games that I'm like, you live here forever.
You know what? I actually found I found here out here basically I found two of the comic books, and like I'm not collecting them or anything, but I think they were only like £3 or like £2,
Okay,
and I saw it and I was like, I mean, I can't not buy you. Like you're literally like £2. Like you might as well. I might as well just get it.
I actually do have one of the comic books somewhere because it came free with the game.
Yeah, it's just this is what I mean though. I feel like it was an era of like, let's just try this and see how it goes, or
Mm,
like, okay, like if a game makes a comic book now, everyone's gonna be like, oh, they did it before. But when it was before, it was like, whoa, no one's done this ever.
I
Do you know what I
feel
mean? Like,
I feel
or
like there are a few games that don't have a comic book to go along with them anyway.
yeah, I wish there was more stuff like that, because I feel like it just added like more lore and that kind of stuff. Like I do like it's like when I was talking about Final Fantasy 15, like that anime movie, a bunch of different stuff, and like, I really like that kind of thing. Like I like it when they do that sort of thing. Uh, what was your first one then?
So my first one, actually, kind of interestingly, to sorry, my first one, interestingly, in comparison to yours, was a character creator that I literally enjoyed it just for the character creation, and I'm kind of sad it's gone at the same time as realizing that we have moved on in life, and I don't know if it still has a place. I feel like it has a place as its own mini game, but did you ever have a
Okay.
Wii?
Yes,
Do you remember the Mii's?
of course.
I absolutely adored them because there was something so freeing about the fact that you could move any feature anywhere across the body in any way that you wanted, and having this freedom to create really odd and unusual characters and just really mess around with it, but also the opportunity to create kind of um like cosplay characters as well, and like famous people. It's like whatever you wanted to make, you could make it as a me. And there was something so enjoyable about that creative freedom of just making characters just for the sake of making characters. And even like because me and my mum and my sister shared our Wii, like making characters and then sharing characters with each other was like a really beautiful thing. And oh, I kind of miss it at the same time as realizing it was a product of its time, and like I don't know what
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
do with it now, even if I did. It's like if I had it available and it's like, oh, this is a mini game you could play. I don't know if I would actively seek out to actually play it, but I think fondly of making random characters and turning eyebrows into moustaches and ridiculous things like that, and like trying to make cartoon characters just to see if you could.
Yeah, I do remember that. I do remember the Wii character creator. I think the one thing that got me about it was like sometimes they looked really out of place in certain games. Like I think even now you might be able to do it in Smash Bros or something like that. But it looks so bizarre to me, but I can appreciate why it would have been fun for sure.
Yeah, because they still have Mii's, but they've kind of like upgraded them and changed them slightly. It's like, oh, it's not the same. It's like the
Oh,
freedom
you know
you
what you just reminded me of?
go on.
Do you remember the Xbox Avatar creator?
I never had an Xbox. I was a traitor to the cause, and I had a PlayStation.
Man, I remember when that was such a feel. You know what? Thinking about it now, it feels like a fever dream. It's like, did that even happen? Because like when you go onto Xbox, it's like they just want you to pick a picture now, and it's like, and I remember like this is you're gonna love this, yeah. So so basically, you can get if you fun the avatar around,
Yeah,
you can get him to like, spin in a certain way. So his arms would like, because he'd do like a little like roundabout thing, and his arms would move like this,
yeah,
right? And because I couldn't afford to pay for anything, because you're basically 14 and have no money, right? And so I would use all the default like clothing to try and find like the best combination, make him look as cool as possible, whatever that means for Xbox Avatar. And then I would want a different picture from everyone else because everyone else would just have a picture of the avatar. But
yeah.
I realized in the photo taker, you could still make him spin around. So I
Okay.
would spin him around and make him dizzy so that his arms was like in the picture. So my avatar was basically the only avatar with like the hands like in his face because no one else could really figure out that he's spinning and you could like exit out of the thing quickly and take a picture. So I was like doing everything I could to like not spend money. So I have this one avatar. He's got like a mohawk and like a flipping with a blue hair somewhere, and like his hand is like there because I was like, well, everyone's gonna look at that and be like, how did you do that? And did anyone ask me about that ever? Not once.
Oh,
I know. I felt so smart. I thought I outsmarted them. I was like, I got a pose and I didn't pay for it.
like character creators like that are just so fun, and I'm kind of glad that some places have brought them back. Like Facebook has got the avatar that you use across the metaverse and Instagram
Yeah.
and all of those. Um, but yeah,
So
I
I'm
think they
just
were
gonna.
pretty good.
You see- can't see that. That's good. Okay. I, I don't want anyone peeping into my fridge. Um. No. Yeah. No. To be fair. You know what? Like looking back at it, it was fun. Like it was cool.
Yeah. All right. What is your next one?
Okay. So this one, of course, somehow I managed to find a way to put Metal Gear Solid once again into my list.
Of course you have.
And you know what's funny about this as well, yeah? It wasn't even that hard for me to figure out how to add it in. You would think, like, how have you managed to get a static, like, pre-designed, like, model into this list, and yet I have managed it. So, so basically, okay, look, I really want you to play the game, but at the same time, like, I kind of have to spoil it as well. Um, so I don't know, like, I'm just gonna spoil it, and that's just how it's gonna go. That's fine. Well, I don't know. What shall I do? Shall I spoil it or not?
Well, you're going to talk about the character creator in some way, so go ahead.
Okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna talk about it, and then it is what it is. But maybe one day, if you do play it, you can still enjoy. I'm sure you can still enjoy
I'm
it.
sure I can
Okay,
still enjoy it.
I'm sure you can still enjoy it. Um. Okay, so Metal Gear Solid 5,
Mhm.
and it has a character creator. And I remember the first time I played it, it was like such a look. It's like a like I don't. It's gonna sound a bit corny, but it's like a spiritual experience. Like if Metal Gear Solid 6 came out tomorrow, like I'd need like a good day off where I get to like play it for like couple good like it's too important in my life like for me not to play that game.
Mm.
So like when 5 came out, regardless of the reception, like I was gonna sit down and play that game. And right at the so we already knew the setting, okay? So we already knew that initially you're going to start out in a hospital. So we knew that already, okay?
Yeah.
So now imagine me, I'm playing this game and it starts out in the hospital like you expect. And and basically it starts out in the hospital. You are Snake, right? So
Mhm.
Snake has been the same character for like I don't know, like 10 years or 20 years at that point, right?
Mm.
And the game opens up with Snake. But then straight away it takes you into a character creation. So you're confused. Yeah, you're like, I don't want to play as me. I want to play as him. Why are you making me design a character? This is definitely the single player mode. So like, I don't want to make a character. Like, don't make me make. I want to be him. So I was like, you know what? On the off chance that this is to do with something to do with the story, let me make an actual character or whatever, right? So I make the character, design it, spend maybe like an hour, something like that, maybe 2 hours, like making the character. And then it looks, once it's done, it looks nothing like what I've designed, right? It looks exactly like Snake. So you're sitting there, you're like, wait a minute, I just made my character. Why does it look like Snake? It's really confusing, right?
Mm.
Like, you just made me make the character. And then I was like, you know what? Never mind. Like, I don't really care. I want it to be Snake anyway. So, like, I don't get what you like. I don't get it. You play the entire game, we're talking 100 hours. It's never mentioned once, not a single time that you made this character until the end, where it turns out that the character you designed was plastic surgery to look like Snake. But because you were in a coma, you don't remember any of the procedure. So the whole point of the introduction is to make you feel disorientated. So because, but they also use the mechanics to add to the layer of disorientation because you're confused because you're like, I just designed a character, it doesn't look like my character. Then obviously the gameplay on that initial segment is like, he can't walk properly because he's in a hospital, all this kind of stuff.
Mm.
And then you play the entire game, you think you are this person, and then the reveal is no, you're the person that you character created right at the start. So that's basically the reveal at the end. And I just like thought that was such a like I think it did rub a lot of people the wrong way.
Mm.
And I think there is a law explanation to sort of how that happens. But I love how he always finds a way, and this is Hideo Kojima, by the way, the director. He always finds a way to somehow blend the real world and that game world and like in a very interesting way that is not necessarily like I've never seen that before. You can correct me if I'm wrong or if you've seen it somewhere else, but I've never seen it before where you have literally made me play the entire game, design a character, and then never have even the slightest reference back to what you designed. And the whole point of that is like you thought you were this person and like the reveal hits like double hard.
Mm.
um because you're like, oh, and then they show you that character that you designed right at the beginning. So basically what this is, right, this is he's done it twice before. And the first time he did it was with a boss fight on the PlayStation 1 where you had to take the control. This is a mind reading boss,
Yeah.
and basically you have to take the controller out, you have to put it into controller 2, and then he can't read your mind.
Yeah.
And so that was like one way you can sort of see how it's blended together, like the real world and like the game world, right? Then in Metal Gear Solid 2, um they make you put your name in right at the start of the game, but they never tell you what it's for. And basically the main character in that game, he's basically being controlled by AI.
Yeah.
And he basically forsakes his old identity because he was being controlled anyway. And when he takes the dog tags off, it was the name that you input at the start of the game. So it was your own actual name. So
Mm.
it's like, again, like you can sort of see how it's blending. So this was the next natural progression of like, you've designed something, you're sort of a part of it, but you don't quite grasp the intensity of that moment until he wants you to grasp the intensity of it. So I just thought it was and look, I'm spoiling a bunch of stuff here, but I think it's one of those things where even if I do spoil it, it's the journey, not the ending per se.
Yeah.
Um, so if you do ever get around to it, um, I'm more than certain you can still enjoy it for what it is. But
I think so. I think there's always
and
something to
and
enjoy.
that, yeah, it's not the only thing about that game that's enjoyable. Like I think it's the culmination of everything. Like there's a bunch of different stuff that come with it.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, um, that's my number two.
Interesting. So, what is the character creator actually like? What do you get to design?
A lot of it is like based on the face.
Mm.
So you can design like I think the face, the hair, like some of the scars. Um, I don't really play. Okay, this is gonna sound really weird from a Metal Gear Solid fan, but I never played the Metal Gear Solid online because I always knew the servers were gonna go down. Like it's never for some reason it's never. I think some people have resurrected some of it somewhere,
Mm.
but I always knew that if I really got into it, I would hate myself if the servers went down. So I was like, if I just never get into it, then I can't be sad when they take the servers down. And in all the cases, I was right. Like Metal Gear Solid 4, the servers went down. And I think that's the one some people have resurrected. Metal Gear Solid 5, the servers went down. They didn't resurrect it. Um, so basically, I think that it was the same character creator as those, but I never really played them, so I can't say for sure.
Mm.
But yeah, it was cool. I think it's more on the list because of like the
The narrative
um
surrounding it.
narrative around it. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say like it was the best character creator I've ever used. I just think it was such a unique way to incorporate a character creator and still have it somehow weave into the narrative. I just thought that was like, and again, like it rubbed some people the wrong way, and it even rubbed me the wrong way. I can happily admit because I was like, I don't want to make a character like I want to be the thing that I've been. I've been that person for the last 15 years. I still want to be that person,
Mm.
but like now with like hindsight and understanding um like the goal of it,
Yeah.
like I could appreciate what he was trying to achieve, and I would say he's probably, whether he's achieved it or not, I think that's like debatable, right? People can come and say he did it, other people can say he didn't do it. What I can say for certain, that it was probably the closest effect of someone, like it was probably the closest someone could have got to achieving something like that. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I think if another developer tried it, I don't know how well they could incorporate it. I think he maybe set the bar for it. But that's just my opinion. I think he set the bar for how to incorporate it as a narrative thread, especially to an already existing narrative like that. Imagine trying to do that with Tekken. Like, it's gonna be borderline impossible. Like you making your.
Wait,
In
doesn't
fact, I can give.
Tekken have a character creator? No,
No, I know it
Street
does. But what I'm
Fighter.
saying, it does. But what I'm saying is, incorporating it. Actually, yeah, maybe Street Fighter has done a relatively good job of that. I'll give it to them. Street Fighter 6, but like you could look at something like Sonic. I can't remember what it was called, but Sonic, one of the more recent games,
Has a
um,
character creator.
has a character creator, and basically like a lot of people were complaining like to do with the narrative on that. So
Mm.
you can see like you could make the case that yes, the character creator is good, but did it successfully interweave it to the narrative? I would disagree there. I would say maybe not so much.
Mm. I see what you mean.
Yeah. But since we did talk about Street Fighter, I have to say like they've done a really good job. Like, there's not on my list. It's not on my list, by the way. But I will say that they in Street Fighter 5, they got a lot of flack for making a very like subpar um like story arcade, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Um because the whole point of a fighting game like like story mode is more to teach the fundamentals of how that game works. It's not necessarily to deliver an amazing narrative. And but what they've done now with six, and again, you have to give Capcom a lot of credit for listening to the fans. Like, they've basically done it in a way where you are the character creator, like as in you are the character you made, and he's basically learning from all the mentors that have been in the game for the last 10 years. So I would say that that is pretty good example of like a successful one. Um, for my taste though, I don't know. Like, I would prefer a game like Sea of Heroes where I feel like they incorporate that final character in a really interesting way. Whereas in a game like Street Fighter, when they address you, they just never, it never feels like they address you properly. Like, I would say that was a really good way that they done the character creator, but I can never get into something like that because it's always like, hello, stranger. And it's like, come on, man. Like, I get it. Like, you can't pronounce Shire. Like, I understand, but I don't like those generic terms. It just makes me feel like it just disconnects me from the narrative. I'm just like, okay. And then it's like, yeah, I don't know. That's just how I feel about it generally.
But I think you've got to remember that some of that is to protect the studio, because they could make it so that it says your name, and there are some games where it's programmed in to say certain names, because you could call your character anything, like a
Yeah,
profanity,
yeah,
and then you'd have that game clipped over YouTube saying this thing, and that
yeah, yeah.
might not be great advertising for them. And especially
No,
if it's a game
no.
like that where it's designed mostly for a younger age group.
You know what? I totally get that. And I think that naturally comes as a challenge for when you make that kind of game. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think you can have a character creator and then not have those challenges. I think they're hand in hand together. And that's why for me, those kind of games are generally I don't tend to like look for those experiences as such. Because I know inherently you'll have that problem. And I don't blame them from not knowing how to overcome it because it's quite a difficult problem to overcome. Um, so yeah, I guess fair enough. You know what I mean? Like you
I feel like the real
can't do much.
difficulty is that in most of the games that you're talking about, what people are looking for is not really the character creation at all. They just want to play.
Um, yeah, true, true, true. Um, can I ask you a question actually?
Hmm.
Did you play Pal World?
Yep.
How was the character creation on that? Did they have one?
Yeah, they did. It
Yeah, what was
was
that like?
um very, very interesting actually, because while you can pick a gender, it's not gendered in the same way. It's like you more pick a body type, but you can still put like a masculine head, because I had a masculine head on my final character because the servers kept resetting and deleting my character. So I had like a masculine head with a really angry face and a really kind of square jawline, and then a really slim figure with like really thick thighs, because why not? Um, and like my biggest thing in a character creator is kind of like, can I be green? Can I be red? Or can I be blue? And I'm very kind of like, oh, I can't be like an abnormal skin color. Like I'm so close to like Alt F4 uninstalls game, completely unplayable. um, and then my other thing is like, okay, I can't be green, I can't be a blue, I can't be red, but do you have a diverse set of skin tones? Because you may notice I have a slight yellowy undertone, and I found that a lot of games that I play, it's like, okay, I can't be those colors, so I want to be my own skin color because I quite like my skin color. I'm happy with it. It pleases me. But I found that a lot of games, they don't really have an understanding of brown skin tones, and so instead of a yellow undertone, it's either like a reddish brown or a purplish brown, which like along that spectrum of color does not suit me, and it's like it's just not me, and it kind of irritates me. And I was like, you haven't looked into this, you haven't really thought about what like the diverse skin tones are, and that irritates me no end, especially when you can't pull the spectrum all the way to the end to make yourself really, really dark if you want to. Because it's like, if you're going to make a character creator and make it so that you have to be human, you have to have like a normal skin tone, you need to include all the skin tones. This is why you'll make your characters green. But yeah, so I am a huge fan of like character creators. Like, give me character creators in everything. Give me just a character creator with no game, and I'm perfectly happy.
Okay, new question.
Hmm.
Did you play the most recent Pokemon?
No, I'm not really a Pokemon person. I liked it when I was a child, but I always leaned more to things like Dragon Drive and um, Digimon, because they just seem so much cooler. And I was having this conversation with my friend actually about the fact that with Pokemon, they're kind of like domesticated animals, kind of like having a cat, and like you've kind of over domesticated them to the point that they need you to survive, and so you are stuck with them in terms of like you have to capture them, you have to take care of them, and they're constantly dying because even in the games there's that subtle reference to like the Pokemon graveyards, and it's like, and you see
Yeah,
some
yeah.
trainers that you've beaten in the graveyards, and it's like, oh, did I send your Pokemon to the grave? I'm so sorry. I was just trying to win the gym battles, the badges, you know. And it was just like that kind of bothered me. At least with like Digimon, there's like a narrative of like the world is at stake. Like this affects all of us and we kind of need your
Right, right.
help. But also, if you weren't around, we'd get it done ourselves. We're perfectly capable and independent creatures. And like you are helpful to us, but we don't require you. You are a helpful person and you're our friend. And it's like, oh, I've always preferred Digimon, and I used to play the Digimon online, which I loved, until the servers went down. But um, I have the kind of opposite view to you about like games like that because I'm like, I will play you for as long as the servers are active because I want to have been part of that journey and to remember it fondly.
See, the reason I ask about Pokemon
Hmm.
is because I think in the latest one, which I also didn't play, because I heard it was very buggy. Um, I think it had a character creator, and I wanted to know if you had seen that because I think the thing is like yeah, I'm sure they have a very different character creator. Yeah, 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 for sure. So I'm on a Reddit now, and I can see like a bunch of people have got like loads of different characters. Um, so I'm pretty sure they have a very much improved character creator, but that would have been really interesting to talk about because they've gone from having basically not a lot of character creator options to like incorporating a lot more. Um, and I think it's very interesting the fact that they actually hadn't done that. Do you know what I mean? Like that's why I was like asking about Power World and stuff like that because this topic to me in relation to Pokemon is very interesting, and I tell you why.
Yeah.
It's because they've been a game series that has been going on for so long, and people, especially more recently and since Power World, have like given it very much deserved criticism. Um, and I think the next game we see from Pokemon is going to be very different because I think they've been very pressurized. But I think it's very telling. I think if you look at it from that perspective of character creation, I think it's very telling of like the kind of history and life cycle of the game and
Mm.
how they've like developed as a game. Because actually, they've maybe introduced the character creation way later than they should have. Like they should have added that. We're talking like 10 years ago, maybe. Do you know what I mean? Like it feels so late. And then when you look at it, compared to other games of that, like if you compare it to like Tekken 7, which has like a really in-depth character creator, let's say,
Mm.
but you won't ever really necessarily play those characters. You'll play like the main character of those games. Um, so I think it's really telling of like how the development has gone.
All right.
What do you think about that?
Two things. So, Power World, I think, sits outside of that conversation because I don't know how much you know about the studio, but the game itself, like, so Power World without the pals already existed. They made a game like a few years before that was the same game, same graphics, same mechanics, like almost everything was almost identical without any of the creatures in it. And it did okay. And then what they did is Power World is just that game with pals added to it. And so the character creator wasn't created to go with the game. It was created for the previous game. And then they just kind of like made the addition of having the pals. And so I feel like they're kind of like separate things with a it's kind of more like a DLC than a new game. But
Wait, you're
with
saying that Power World is not comparable to Pokemon,
no, because the things that are in it were from the previous game.
right?
And then they added the Pokemon to their previous game, which was, you know, successful. And so it just kind of like added like a kind of like a DLC element to a game that already existed. Like, oh, you've been playing this game, you've been farming, you've been going around. Now you have creatures, you have people to fight, and we've like added this element to the game. But if you don't like that, the other game still exists, so you can have it without. Whereas I think that with Pokemon, I kind of feel, hot take, but I feel like them having a character creator is, and I haven't played it, so I could be wrong, but it kind of feels like an easier way of advancing the
Mm.
game, because what would have been really interesting to first would have been to add the different gyms and have your character be someone from that gym. So actually, you could have the
Oh,
same
okay.
head, just decide to be like male, female, neutral, and then the uniform be like, oh, you're from like a water gym or you're from a fire gym, and like you start off as like in a different part. And then, like, you're journeying all towards the same direction, but having like a narrative based on who you picked. And I feel like, because like obviously you start off with the different Pokemon a goal because of which Pokemon you picked before. And I feel like a lot of the times what they relied on was trying to put people in like a camps. You know, like with the uh there's an advert for the chocolate bar. Is it Twix? Where it's like, are you like
Definitely.
pardon?
No, go on.
Where it's like, oh, are you a biscuit and caramel, or are you a caramel and biscuit? It's like, but it's the
Oh,
same.
yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah,
they
yeah.
did that whole campaign about like, are you a right Twix person or a left Twix person? It's like,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah, yeah.
it's really clever because it's so stupid because they're in the same packet. You're going to eat them both. It doesn't matter actually. And I feel like Pokemon have always kind of gone with that because it's like, oh, are you a diamond or are you a pearl? Are you a red or are you a blue? And it's just like, it's Pokemon. Like all the other Pokemon are going to be the same. The storyline's going to be fairly similar. The only thing that changes is my goal at the end of which creature I'm going to get. And then if I then connect, especially with the earlier ones where you could connect with people who's got the other game, it's like I can then have everything. I can have it all. And it's an interesting way of like marketing, um, like trying to like pit people against each other, but they're both buying your game. It really doesn't matter which one
Okay,
sells
wait.
more or
In
less.
relation to character creation, though, what
Yes,
are we
because
saying?
in that way, I just think that the character creation for Pokemon is like, but what about the different like factions, the different sides? And they've just kind of like abandoned that and gone for a new element. And I feel like everybody's trying to kind of like jump on the online market of like having people, and I feel like
Right.
they've
So you're.
moved away from their kind
Mm.
of like go to of like, are you in this camp or are you in this camp, to okay, we need to get people online, we need to kind of unite everyone, which is I think what it's called. And so the character creation is kind of an obvious thing because if you've got lots of players playing online, you have to give them that kind of like freedom, that skin, a little bit like
Okay.
Fortnite. So you need it to
So
differentiate.
just so I'm clear, you're saying that it's maybe a bit of a lazy way of doing things, but they should maybe incorporate like a static character that would make sense for their world. Is that
Yeah, because
I'm
I
trying to
think, and like that's one of the things that I think Powell did do, because even though you create your character at the
right.
beginning in like terms of body type, you don't get to pick clothes or anything, or like weapons or dexterity or any of those things. Those
Yeah.
happen through playing the game, and like you get points and then you put them into the places you want them to be. And I feel like that is a better system because it's only as you're playing that you kind of can, like, some people will know at the beginning, I'm a player that I'm going to be on the front lines fighting like with my fist, whereas, and like I know I'm a long distance player, I will be up and mounting shooting an arrow at the farthest range that I possibly can. And so the things that I need to put my stats into will be kind of like things like dexterity, so I can climb up there, speed, so I can run away quickly, and it won't be things like strength unless it's to like carry more stuff because I do like a nice good journey to gather resources and come back. And so I think that that actually would have been better for Pokemon because it is an exploratory world where you're kind of like discovering Pokemon and like realizing who you are. And it's like that makes more sense to me that you would do it over time, but also change it because also the narrative will stay exactly the same. It's you that's the way you're playing the game that will create your own personal narrative. And it also gives
Yeah,
you
because
the
the
replayability.
characters. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And it's like that's what they want. They want you to want to replay it, to keep to stay there, to want to be there, to try it again, to try different angles, for people to say, "Oh, but did you try this?" And it's like, "Oh, well, now I'm going to have to start again." And it's like that's what they want. And so I feel like it's just I wonder if it's more of an experiment, and like you said, the next one's going to be really different and use the feedback that they've got from this one to create something that is more along the lines of like you'll grow within the game, or if they were just kind of like, oh, we need to hop on this market and have something. Because even like I don't
Mm.
know how much you know about like the Sims universe, but they have this thing called Project Rain, which is meant to be like the code word for the Sims 5. And there was this idea that it was going to be online multiplayer the Sims, and it was like, but that's not what the Sims is. And I get it, like the kind of the idea of like turning the Sims into Second Life, where you'd like live down the street from your friend and you could like co build a house and stuff. But it's like,
Okay,
but
okay.
that is a huge market that you'd be competing with. And no offense to the Sims, but the Sims is very tame, which is one of the things I like. You cannot swear in it. The only thing you can do when you have a fight is like there's a ball of dust like a cartoon, and you don't actually see any of the fight. And some people don't want that, because even when you look at like mods for the Sims, people want that kind of like, they want nudity, they want violence, they want swearing.
Mm.
And to have an online multiplayer game where you're building, it's like you'll be competing with things like Power World, like Red Dead Redemption, like anything that has a character creator, open world where you have to like build a base, that will be your competitor. And why would somebody want to play The Sims over one of those games? And I'm not saying they won't,
Yeah,
but it's like that's a huge market to try and enter into and compete. And
I
then
hear you.
you've got like what is it called? Grand Theft Auto. And it's just like when you look at the last one, you weren't building anything, but it's like all of the things you can do, and then the mods where you can work in McDonald's or be a water person or own a petrol station and like actually just work a job in GTA. It's like, why would somebody pick The Sims over that? And like that, I think is the question that I'm glad I'm not in their marketing team to have to answer that. But that is the question. It's like, but why? Why would they? And it's like, I will
Right.
definitely play it. I know I will because I love simulation games, but I am one person in a very huge market.
So in another way, you're basically saying they need to do what is unique for them and their story to
Yeah.
make it feel more different so that there's actually a reason for you to feel like I want to do this instead of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, I'd have to completely agree.
yeah, because I hate, like, I love character creators, but I hate a character creator for the sake of having a character creator. Because that
Mm,
is,
I hear that.
because like you said, it breaks the
This is
immersion. You're like, why am I doing this?
this is why I think Pokemon is so interesting to be a part of this conversation, though, because I think that they fall into a lot of those pitfalls that you mentioned. I think that they've done some of it for that reasons, and you're definitely correct. I think they could integrate it in a very different way. I think they need to innovate it to make it their own. And I don't think that necessarily means we have the answers for that. I don't think we necessarily know what that looks like,
Mm,
but I definitely think there's a version of that that can vastly improve that experience. So, you know, I'm always hope. Look, full transparency. I've not played maybe the last two games, I think, or something like that, and there's a couple of them I need to play. And the last one I purposefully didn't play because I heard it was very glitchy and buggy and that kind of stuff.
mm,
I will eventually play it and hopefully with a bunch of updates so it doesn't feel like I'm playing a broken game. But honestly, I hope a lot of this is addressed in the next game. And I think their marketing currently is showing that they are trying to listen, because I think they maybe got scared a little bit by how everyone responded to Pal World. Like you can tell that they were losing their grip a little bit, and it's the first time that they've been challenged in that way. You could make the case for Digimon for sure.
Yeah, but it's not.
Um,
It's never been a challenger. It's just been an alternative, which is not the same thing.
yes. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And now they've seen I think it's the emergence of this. Pal World could be the start of a trend, and you want to close that trend as soon as possible.
Yep.
And that's why it's going to be way more interesting to see how they respond to it. And in fact, I think they announced the game, or they announced that they're developing the game, and it's going to take them a lot longer to make it, which is very interesting because they've not done that before. They've not
Mm.
made an announcement to say we are going to make this game. So yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have um did you have any more character creators you wanted to talk about?
Of course. Of course. I think it's the one that's on everyone's lips at the moment. If you are a simulation game player, you have heard of Inzoi. It is incredible, and I there's a part of me that's like, oh, Inzoi, how could you? But basically, on Twitter, they were actually calling out The Sims. I can't even remember what they said. They were saying like basically, our character creator has this. What's up, The Sims? And I was like, someone needs to call them out because they haven't had competition for so long and they've rested on their laurels. And I'm sure I've spoken about it before, but I am so disillusioned with The Sims 4, um, because there are so many things that break the immersion. Like, I don't know if I spoke about this before, but there was an element where I bought a DLC that was like, you could raise chickens and cows in your back garden and you could be off the grid and so self-sufficient. And I was having a great time until I was like, oh, I'm off the grid, so I don't have any electricity. So my fridge I had to keep filling it up with ice in order to keep everything cool and stop food from spoiling. And I was like, well, I'm off the grid, that's fine. I was like, but there must be a way to generate electricity. And then it turned out that to generate electricity, I had to buy another DLC that was about £30 in order to get the electricity generating. And it's like, but you let me buy this game that allowed me to be off the grid without the ability to be off the grid and self-sufficient, without buying another game to add on top of it. And I was like, no, no, I have carefully curated the games that I want to have and the things that I want. You can't force, well, you can do whatever you like, but you shouldn't force people into buying like endless DLCs just because you want that one thing. And like The Sims 4 used to have a store where you could buy like one table or like one chair from an entire game instead of buying the whole game, because it's like, I just want that one hairstyle, I just want that one table. And honestly, you probably spent more money because it's like, I'm going to buy this one thing from every game you've ever produced and I'm going to save up for it and I'm going to get points. And like, every time you bought a game, if you registered it, which, analytics for them, you got like, I think it was 1,000 sim points that you could then spend. And The Sims 4 took away the store and made it so you had to buy everything in like £15 DLC packs or £30 add-on games. And that really bothered me because and then even like the when you went off in one of the episodes, I was talking about my love of the color wheel. I adore the color wheel. It is my favorite feature in any character creator. Like, give me a color wheel and I am sold. I was playing the Inzoi. They had a character creator demo. Unfortunately, it's down now for anyone who missed it, but there's loads of videos online and you can be green and you can be any shade of green and you can even have like colored hair, and the detail
Do
in,
you use Unreal Engine 5?
I don't know what engine it uses actually. I'm assuming it
I'm
does.
looking at it now. I believe it does. And I'm looking at some crazy creations. They look so good.
And like, because of the detail that you can put in the face and like the eyes and the noses, it means that there is almost no ethnicity that you cannot represent within your character creation. And like, someone was complaining because they were saying, oh, all the characters are really picturesque and they look like beautiful models. So then a series of YouTubers went through the process of trying to create the ugliest characters they could, and I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of quite funny because you had some that looked like D&D orcs or trolls, and I was like, good, good that you can like have that variety, that it's not all kind of like picturesque people. It's exactly who you want to be and what character you want to create. And there's no kind of like limitations or like, oh, don't you think your nose is getting a bit big or your cheeks are getting a bit full? And it's like, no, 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 do whatever you like. And they have a color wheel and they believe in the hex system. Oh, how I love the hex color system. And they like everything about it is amazing because it integrates. I don't know if you've ever heard of like Clo 3D. It's the design program I use to make digital clothing. So Clo 3D is integrated into the game so that you could, if you designed clothes, kind of share your clothes on the game for other people to wear on the characters. But in the actual character creator, you can make your own clothes. So like you can take a t-shirt and be like, oh, I want it to have like a turtleneck, or I want it to have a collar, and I want it to be a crop top, or I want it to be really long, and then add the sleeves and change the color and save it. So it's given you the opportunity to not break the immersion of saying, oh, you need to go and learn digital 3D modeling or fashion design. It's like, no, in the game you can make a basic skirt, you can make a basic top. And then when I was like, yep, this is the best game of the year, even though it's just a demo, 10 out of 10, give it all the awards, you can upload your own images to put them on top of your like clothing. So I had like a tie where I'd made this like rainbow, and then I was doing like my nails, and so I had my nails matching my tie, which is not something I would ever do in real life because it's not like, nails aren't my thing. But having the
Wait, wait,
freedom,
wait, wait. Did
yeah.
you take a picture of Aaron and then put him
Yes,
on the
I
top?
could. Yep, so you could have your like cat as your t-shirt, and like I just think the things that people will design, and I love anything that allows different levels of designability, because I was saying, like you could go through the 3D modeling and the design something and bring it into the game, or you could design something in the game. But with that, you could just be someone who doesn't know how to do 3D modeling, but you can draw, or you can use AI, and you could create something that's you and unique to you. And let's put it on a top. And like you said, you could have like a cat t-shirt and you could have it say whatever you want, or you could have like your favorite like football brand and have that be your character. And like me and my friend were talking about it, and it was interesting because with this character creator, I feel like with a lot of character creators, you're just creating a character, and it's just like, this is just a person. But with this, it was like, no, this is my person, or this could be me. Like I could make it look exactly like me, especially as I'm assuming, because the program they're using to do the digital clothing actually has an AI add-in that you can take a selfie and it will remap the face so that it looks like you, and you can create digital clothes for your own body and face. I'm assuming they're probably going to use something similar where you could take a picture of yourself and just create your own character without having to like move the eyes and the ears and everything. And it's just like being able to be yourself if that's what you want to be. I think is a fantastic spectrum between like people who are like, I just want it to be me. I want it to look exactly like me, be the same height, same body type, and that's who I want to be. And then you've got me on the other, and it's like, I want to be green, and I want to have spiky purple hair, and like I want to have cat eyes, and like it's already all integrated, and like that freedom and openness is just like, yeah, yeah, I that's what I want. I want to not feel limited or told that I cannot be a certain way. I do think, I'm hoping they improve the personality creation, because that was just like tarot cards sort of thing, and it's like, oh, you're the creative and you love doing this, but you always get really depressed, and you get, and like yeah, and it's like you're not very happy, and like you're often quite down, and you need more things
Mm.
to make you feel better. And it's like, okay, but you can only be the creative. You can't be the creative and be the introvert. You have to pick one. And I feel like that's unrealistic of like a game. And like, I was saying to you, I think actually it might be a better system to not pick one at all, and have it be that as you play the game, the way you interact with people makes your personality kind of like come to light in certain ways. Like if you don't talk to anyone for 3 days, it's like you're probably an introvert. You haven't left the house, you haven't spoken to another person. And I can see why they've put it in first, but I do wonder how it's going to develop. But like the intro was so fascinating, and I'm really really excited about it, if you couldn't tell, and I cannot wait for it to come out. And it's everything that I thought The Sims 4 was going to be, and it never lived up to. And so like I can totally see why they're calling out The Sims, because it's like they've got a huge pillar to be able to stand on and be like to The Sims, this is what you should have been. This is like, we are what you should have been for the one before, not even what you need to be for the next one. And it's like, you're already behind in the race of simulation games. What are you going to do about it? And it's like, yes, call them out, because that will push them to be better. And like, then I feel like The Sims 5 might be something really amazing, because it's like they've got this to compete with, they've got GTA to compete with. It's like, okay, come on guys, we need to pull this out of the bag, it's going to need to be amazing. And it's like, yes, call them out, make it amazing. I can't wait to see it, because I'm definitely going to play it. Like, I'm not, even though I'm upset with the current one, it's like, it's not, I've
Don't
played it,
say that. Don't say that.
but I'm definitely going to play it. I'm not going to lie and say I'm not going to play it. I can't wait for it to come out. I'm super excited. And then you've got another one called Paralives that
Mm.
is, it's more cartoony in style, but it's also trying to take on The Sims in the sense of, it's trying to answer everything the community wanted, and The Sims was just like, no. And that is, I'm so excited for that. That's coming out next year as well. So this is coming out next year, that's coming out next year. There's another one called Viva Land, where you, it's like an extension of Second Life, where it's multiplayer online, and you can either live by yourself or you can live with people and decorate the house together. And it's like, that's coming out. I think a lot of them are trying to fly under the radar. And then there's one called Live the Life, which already came out and is constantly updating, and no one's talking about it. And like, that character creation is pretty interesting as well. Um, because even in like, when you pick your characteristics, they're not character traits, they're life traits, which is not something I've ever seen before. So one of the life traits is like golden child, where every week money comes from a like unknown parent that's just sending you a snipend. Because you've always had, you're a golden child, you've always had some money. So even if you don't get a job, you've always got an allowance. And it's like, that's an interesting way of doing the kind of like personalities, like not having personalities. Like, these are your lifestyle traits. Or like, you can be an alcoholic, which means that when you go and drink, you don't get drunk. Um, I don't tend to drink in games anyway, but I drank in that game once because I wanted to see what it was like. It was awful. When you drink, you immediately get drunk, and the whole camera shakes as you're walking. And then when you go to the map to try and find your home, the map is like shaking and twisting, and it's like, oh, this is awful. Why would anyone want this? Which is, I think, is an interesting reflection on real life. But yeah, so there are some pretty amazing character creators out there.
No, it
There's
sounds cool, and it definitely sounds cool. And you know what I like? I love to hear, like, even when it's not something necessarily that I'm into,
mm,
like I love to hear how they're pushing it forward, because I think the advancement of that, it could create something that I could be into. Do you know what I mean? So like the next Sims, I might see something there that I'm like, whoa, I didn't know we were at this level now, and that could bring me into the game. So although like it's not necessarily my bag of chips, like I love to hear about it,
mm.
because it could potentially go on to influence other games as well that I do like. So it's really cool to hear for sure.
Yeah, I think that with simulation games, the way that they're going, and albeit a little bit slowly, is towards the idea of creating a metaverse where you could
Mm.
live, work, and basically like that could be your life. Because like Second Life did it first and is still doing it. I don't know how much you know about Second Life.
Uh, enough, probably.
But like, when they banned gambling, that was really when Second Life really fell apart. I don't know how much you know. Okay, basically
Mm.
they used to
I
gamble.
don't know the gambling meta. No,
So they used to gamble in Second Life. They had like gambling games and they had casinos.
real money.
Yes, well, it's Linden dollars, but you pay real money into it and then you use the Linden dollars to gamble. But what happened was, the gambling was one of the things that it it paid for the interest for the bank, because you had real banks in the game that gave interest on the money that you'd put in the banks in the game. So people lived their entire lives like making furniture, making clothes, making avatars, then putting that money into the banks, and then like you could transfer it back into real money because it was declared on the stock market to count as like a possession, like a house. So it was a real business. It was a real thing, and it still is, but just like without banks, because the banks failed because when they I said outlawed, when they said that there would be no more gambling, it was very sudden. It was like, yeah, gambling stops today. And then suddenly the banks were like, there's no money because we were relying on the interest from the gambling to give you interest on the money that was in the bank. And it's like suddenly your in-game money became worthless. People lost their entire lives, and it's like this is like a stock market crash but in a game, but it's affecting real life because some people, this
Okay,
was
I
their job.
definitely don't know enough about this. That's crazy.
I know. And so I feel like they were ahead of their time because that is what the metaverse is meant to be. It's somewhere where you could live, work, and you wouldn't need to interact with the real world outside of that world being your real world. And I feel like simulation games are either heading that way or they need to stay in the lane of being a game, and they need to pick which one it's going to be because they can't be both. And I feel like, is The
Yeah.
Sims going to head down that you could make a living in here? You could be a designer, you could be like a newsreader in The Sims, and it's like, are you going to head down that way? Because you need to pick now and decide, because that is definitely going to be like the branch off of simulation games, I think. Because you do have like Second Life
Yeah.
newsreaders, and for a while they were you had Second Life universities where you could get actual courses by going to real lectures that had like timetables. And so it was kind of like, it was ahead of its time, definitely. And even though it still exists, it's still kind of like, I feel like it still needs a little bit of updating personally. Um, but I am really excited to see where they're going to take this, because I even think things like GTA could compete with that idea of like, this is your job, and like people paying you money to like be in their group, or like earning some sort of interest for doing something. It's like anything could be
I'm
monetized
not
if you
ready for
think
that.
about it.
No, no thanks. No, I don't know.
But it's like, when will that happen, and who's going to do it first? Well, Second Life did it first, but who's go well, actually no, they didn't. They weren't actually the first. The first was in 1998. It still exists, but it has it like, you can still download it, but it has like a list of things that's like, this may break your computer. We don't take any responsibility. And then it's like a long list. And it's like, maybe I won't try this actually. But I am really fascinated and really intrigued to see where's it going to go.
Yeah, I'm interested too. Damn, like I didn't know it was that deep. I'm gonna have to watch a couple of YouTube videos on that.
Yep, you'll probably find out even more than I do, because obviously I was looking at it from like a research perspective of looking at like what's the best platform to think about like my own like PhD research, and I realized
Yeah,
that
yeah,
actually my research is so speculative, the platform doesn't yet exist. And so it's trying
right.
to predict where are these platforms going to be in the next 15, 20 years to incorporate what I'm researching. And like everything's so volatile at the moment that, for all I know, Metal Gear Solid or like Redemption could be the next metaverse. And it's like, people are like, no, 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 we don't want The Sims. We want to live in this post-apocalyptic world, and like that's the future. And it's like, you know what? You just don't know what people are going to be into. You cannot predict
That's
it.
very true. Honestly, that's so true right now. You know what? I think we've been gushing for a while, so maybe we should call it here. How long we've been running for?
An hour and 13 minutes.
All right. Do you have many more to talk about, or are we good?
Um, no, because the only other one I was going to talk about was I don't know if you've played Nightingale.
Nightingale. Wait, how old is it?
Fairly new. I think it came out this year. Was it this year or was it last year?
Survival. Is it like a survival game?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it now.
That character creator was really interesting because it didn't actually have like the in-depth like facial features. You picked based on, so you made your family tree, out of the given
Right.
characters, and then you had like this
Right.
square, and you had to pull the thing around, and it based it on like all of the people and their facial expressions and ethnicities in your family, and mix them together to create your character, which I thought was so clever. Because obviously, do you know what I'm saying, I hate a character creator for the sake of having a character creator, whereas this made
Yeah.
sense to me because it's like you're in a game, it's a Victorian kind of like era steampunk. The world is very broad. People are traveling. You have a variety of cultures in your family. You are a mix and a dichotomy of all of them. Here's like a quick way of doing it without being like, oh, move the nose, move the ears, move the lips. It was like, no, 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 you want to get into it, you want to be fighting, you want to be like in the game. Here's a way to do it that doesn't take you forever. Because like I took ages on it, but my friend managed to like be like, this is fine, and then like move it a little bit, and he's like, yeah, this is brilliant. And he was like perfectly happy. He had no like qualms, and he didn't feel like it had gone on too long. Whereas I was like, I can take my time. I can change my hair. I can change like the dresses and make it my own because I like that. And I was like, this is a really clever character creator because it works for
Mm.
both someone who loves character creation and someone who's like, give me the game now and get rid of this stuff. And I just thought that's so clever and so fantastic. And I think a lot of games could learn a lot from a way of doing a character creator that's not as in depth, but because it doesn't need to be, it is what it is because it is what it needs to be. And that was the only one I was going to talk about, and that's what I was going to say.
No, we can keep going if you want. I
No, no, no,
mean,
that
I
was
don't mind.
literally all I was going to say. But then Inzoi. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm actually
No,
like
that looks really
tingling.
good. Yeah, looking
I'm
at the
whew,
screenshots is crazy. There's one screenshot I was looking at. It's like they've remade Joker. Like
yeah.
top, yeah, like it's really interesting.
Mm. And I'm wondering if
Honestly,
you're going to be
like
able to share characters because some, like I said, some people don't want to create a character, and like being able to share a character with people so they could just be like, oh, I want to be that character. It's like that will open it up to so many more people.
yeah. Um, I think I only really had like maybe a runner-up,
Go on.
which was like Final Fantasy 15. Not necessarily the character creator, because I think there is an actual character creator for the online. They
Yeah.
made it online, which I didn't play because I'm assuming that the servers are down. I think they might still be up, so I may give it a chance at some point.
Mm.
Um, but I just wanted to shout out, like, I mean, we might have brought it up in a private conversation. I don't think we spoke about it on stream, but basically, just the way that those characters are default dressed, I thought was really cool. And like they had a Vivian Westwood collaboration, and like just to shout out the static design, I thought was really cool. And the potential, I think they had a potential collaborations with some other stuff as well.
Mm.
Um, so I think I just wanted to shout them out just to say that I thought that their character design was cool, but nothing to do with like specific character creation. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did speak about them because we were talking about like the movie and the Louis Vuitton deal with the red shoes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that was not on stream though, I don't think, right?
I think it was.
Was it? Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was it, just a shout out.
Okay,
But we can call it there if you want.
yeah, I think so. So thank you for joining us for our fifth episode. Oh, it's not next week. Is it next week? Yeah, next week.
A hiatus is coming.
Yes, we're taking a break next week, but we will be back the week after. It'll give a lot of you a time to catch up on some of the previous episodes. But thank you for joining us. Please do like, subscribe, and share. And we'd love to know some character creators that you like in the comments. We do read the comments and we love kind of like discussing them. It's really, really interesting. And, we're trying to build a community. So talk to us, let us know. And we will see you in the next one. Bye.